Okay, connection is better. I'm glad we solved that. And it's so good to see your face. I hope you are safe. I know you're coming to us from Beirut, where Eugene and I were just talking about this latest horrific airstrike where they targeted two residential buildings, completely destroying one of them in central Beirut. Before we get into some deeper questions, can you just update us on what's going on? Rumors are that they targeted in this strike for assassination Wafi Safa, which is Hezbollah's liaison and coordinations unit head, who is a political figure. I will remind people, not a military figure. So please, I'll let you take it from there.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's been 18 people killed. That's the latest update, and 97 injured. I was just downstairs because my cousin's fiance, a very young girl, literally, I was called by my cousin that they live in the neighborhood there, and she was terrified, in shock. She was safe, but they needed to move, so we were giving her keys for another apartment to do so. I mean, they're targeting. It's like they've run out of their so-called bank of targets, and now it's anyone is game, basically. I mean, there's no point, there's no reason why they would target a politician, because that's what he is at the end of the day. He's an official. He's not a military man. He's not one of the intelligence corps. He should not be on. No one should be on their list, in effect. But definitely not Wafiq Safa. That's the excuse. Irrespective of the excuse, Rania, as you know, the two areas today that were targeted, one is called Nuwairi and the other one is Basta, the upper Basta. These are really heavily populated civilian areas or neighborhoods. And the last time they did Beirut, they actually used a drone missile, which went straight into one apartment, although the building was a 7th-floor apartment. Today, they didn't. One of the buildings is a 4th-floor apartment, which was totally destroyed, and the other one is heavily damaged. So they literally went for the entire building, even though there are civilians and families, residents living in that building. Whether Wafiq Safa is there or not is not the point anymore. To kill, they're killing at random. Earlier today, they targeted 3 buildings in the Bekaa Valley. These were residential buildings again, and there were like quite a number of casualties between were killed and those that were injured. So Israel is just basically, excuse me, having a free hand in Lebanon. And the worst part is no one in the West is actually even attempting to stop it. You know, they broadcast what they want to do. They say we want to invade. They say we want to take this country, that country, and the other. They say we're going to target these hit lists. You know, they put lead target, and then they cry that they're the victims. I mean, I really can't understand anymore how this is happening.
You know, one of the factors that I think, for those of us who are our viewers in the West that they get is, Israel is constantly claiming, and the U.S. media is constantly repeating that, they're degrading Hezbollah, they're destroying Hezbollah, they're assassinating all these leaders to destroy their infrastructure. And I mean, I just wonder what you think about that, because I think obviously the Israelis have had a long-term policy of extermination against the leaders of any resistance group of any sort. Is this kind of like terroristic bombing something that can destroy or uproot Hezbollah as a movement, as an idea moving forward?
Not at all. And we saw that attempt even in Gaza when they said, they want to eradicate or eliminate Hamas. I mean, Hezbollah is a cause. It's not about a man or a leadership. It's an entire cause. It's a population. It's a Shiite community. It's about the South in its entirety. So even if they eliminate leadership, they thought that by eliminating Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah and the top hierarchy, that they will actually, that the organization will actually crumble. It will stop being. But they're making mistakes every single time. It's not mistakes that they don't know about. It's mistakes that they know, and they keep on repeating because that's their excuse. That's their justification, because they really want to go on a rampant and kill. So eliminating the leadership does not end or seize the organization. Neither does it end or seize the cause, which is the people, which is their freedom, which is the reality that they want to live on their own territory, on their own land, whether Israel wants it or not. So by eliminating leadership, immediately new leadership are fill in the gap, basically, be it from the military side or the intelligence side or the leadership. So far, Hezbollah has not actually appointed or anointed its new general secretary, and it will do so in due time. But that does not cease. And let's say they eliminate the entire hierarchy of Hezbollah. That will be refilled. within days or within weeks, it will be refilled. And even if they did that, that does not end the fact that there are people fighting for their freedom, for for their right to exist, for Israel to stop occupying, and for Israel actually to stop aggressing, because that's the most important thing. Israel is the bully in the region, and all it does is aggress and then cry wolf. And this has become a norm for it. But no, you cannot kill an ideology, you cannot kill a cause, and you cannot kill an entire population or an entire community which runs in the millions. So I don't think it's going to work. We know it's work. They want to work, but they go ahead and do it anyway.
So, Hala, I want to ask you about the sort of internal Lebanese dynamics that are taking place in the context of what the U.S. is doing on the political side. So, while Israel is trying to degrade Hezbollah militarily, the U.S. is trying to weaken Hezbollah politically by pressuring the government to appoint a president who is to the U.S.'s liking, who then they would like to basically squeeze Hezbollah out of the political field. And we know Hezbollah was elected in 2022 again to serve in parliament. They're a part of the largest parliamentary bloc. And before I get your answer on that, because a part of this is also trying to exacerbate sectarian tensions in the U.S. with the same typical characters we're used to. We're used to the U.S. doing this. We're used to the Israelis doing this. But Benjamin Netanyahu, a couple of days ago, actually put out a video addressed to the Lebanese, but of course in English, so it was really meant for the West. And I just want to show a clip from that video and then get your reaction to the idea in it. Can we please play that clip?
You deserve to restore Lebanon to its days of tranquility. You deserve a Lebanon that is different. One country, one flag, one people. Don't let these terrorists destroy your future any more than they've already done. Stand up and take your country back. You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza. It doesn't have to be that way.
God, I should have put a trigger warning on that because I feel like traumatized just seeing this man's face at this point. But, he essentially was calling for the Lebanese to start either kill each other or they will turn Lebanon into Gaza. So I'm just curious, your response to these clear attempts to try to reignite civil unrest in Lebanon along sectarian lines.
Anything that actually ignite a civil unrest, because that would weaken Hezbollah, which is concentrating now all its all its fighting in the south, and will not be able to so is the assumption anyway that will not be able to handle an internal war. Either way, whether Hezbollah is able to handle that or not is not the point. It's the fact that you have a so-called prime minister of so-called entity, right, that is actually telling the Lebanese what they should or shouldn't do. I mean, how dare he? The audacity of that is just staggering. He should be looking internally to clean his own house. And since when does Netanyahu lecture the Lebanese? Since when does Netanyahu actually even give a broadcast to the Lebanese? This is the first time around throughout the history we've not had an Israeli leader address the Lebanese, or anyone for that matter. He's emboldened by the assassination of Hezbollah, and he assumes that he can do this, and that obviously he's also speaking to a particular camp in Lebanon that you and I know, that are very happy to hear him say that would be happier even, if Hezbollah is beating on the field, and if they make peace with Israel tomorrow. And we call them the far-right Zionists that are in the country, and they can be even more more hardliners than the actual Zionists themselves. So this address is meant for them. And yes, he is attempting to start a civil war in Lebanon. And on top of that, he's pretending that he wants peace in Lebanon, or he wants peace anywhere for that matter, when in fact they want a piece of Lebanon. Smotrich was out a couple of days ago on some interview with a French TV. Literally, he spelled it out. I mean, they're telling the world what they want to do. they're announcing their terrorist acts. They're announcing their hit lists. They're announcing the fact that they want to that they're expansionists and they want to take this country and that country. They're announcing everything, and then they come and try and preach to us that they want peace. If you want peace, you should cease from bombing Lebanon. What was the bombing tonight about? Assuming you have this one target, you bring down 2 buildings and kill over 20 civilians and nearly 100 civilians to get your one target, that is not going to resolve any issue. If anything, people are now more drawn towards Hezbollah. People are now going to fight even more, and people will never accept peace with Israel. And definitely, they're not going to accept the Americans or the Israelis imposing a new president. We all know what happened when they did that in 1982. And this could just be another repeat of that. There is no way that the Lebanese or a huge sector of the Lebanese is going to accept the Americans to dictate who becomes president. And really, when you have a full-fledged war going on in the country, with the possibility of a full-fledged invasion, because it looks like that's what he wants to do, this is not the time to be discussing whether Lebanon has or hasn't a president, or whether one needs to assign a president now. So that's not going to wash with many, but it will wash with a certain sector, as you know.
You know, I'm glad you raised this issue of a hit list as well, because Rania brought to my attention an interesting graphic that I think was on Channel 12, maybe Channel 14, Israeli News. Hopefully we can maybe pull this graphic
Channel
up, but sort
14.
of the targets of people they want to kill. And there's a lot of notable things here, but the thing that really struck me is one of the images is Grand Ayatollah Sistani from Iraq. Maybe some people might argue the top leader of all Shia in the world. And I just wonder what you think this says about the sort of broader Israeli goal and campaign here, that in addition to, you know, the leaders of the Houthis, Hamas, and others, they've targeted one of the top Shia clerics here on such a prominent media channel in Israel.
I mean, let's put it out there. They're unhinged. That's one. Second, if they touch Ayatollah Sistani, you have no idea what the ripple effect of that would be. And this time, I'm serious when we're saying this. I know sometimes people say, if something happens, it's going to cause this, it's going to trigger that. On this occasion, if Ayatollah Sistani is touched, right, together with Sayyid Khamenei, these are the 2 most revered, if you want, and the most senior Shiite clerics in the world. And Sistani definitely is sometimes said to be the bigger name. That does not then just end with Iraq responding or Lebanon responding, the Shiites in Iraq, or the Shiites in Lebanon. You're talking the tens of millions of Shiites around the world that will not accept it, because for them, these are the scholars that they refer to. It's like literally you saying that we're going to kill the Pope, okay? That's how serious this is. It's an offense to say it religiously, to make such an announcement. And it's actually quite... It goes against every international law in the world that you're actually broadcasting a hit list of senior clerics that are leaders in their own countries, of sovereign countries, and you dare say that. And still, like I said at the beginning of this interview, the world pats Israel on the back and says Israel has the right to defend itself. I'm sorry, Israel here is the aggressor. And I'll tell you what, Lebanon has the right to defend itself by the same token. So does Iraq, so does Iran, so does Yemen, so does Syria. These are the axes at the moment that are being attacked by Israel, and each and every one of them has the same exact right to defend itself like Israel. This thing about Israel's right to self, that doesn't wash anymore. If that's where they want to go, if they actually assassinate Sistani, there will be a major war in the region. And mark my words, that would be the case.
Well, speaking of major wars in the region, there's another element of this escalation that everybody's waiting for, and that is Israel's response to Iran's retaliation from last week, when Iran sent 180 ballistic missiles at Israel and rained down. I mean, it was pretty incredible to see, because we've never seen missiles like that rain down on Tel Aviv, but we saw it this time. And the Israelis for the last week have been promising all kinds of things. They've been promising to punish Iran, to perhaps strike oil facilities, to perhaps even strike their nuclear facilities. They've been coordinating with the Americans. You've covered so many wars across the region, Hella. Both, the dirty wars and the, wars between armies. What do you see happening here? Do you think this is going to lead to a tit for tat that becomes regular between the Israelis and Iran? Like, where does this end? What happens next?
Well, Iran has made it very clear that, I mean, let's make something clear, because I think it's important for the audience to know. When Iran fired those 180 missiles, it did not fire them out of a vacuum. It was in response to Israeli attacks inside of Iran when they assassinated the political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, and obviously for assassinating the General Secretary of Lebanon, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and for attacks that they've carried out against Iran over a period of time. So the particular attack was in response. It was a reprisal. It was a response. It was a reaction. And they have the right to do just like Israel does. Now Israel is going to attack Iran again. And it pretends it's attacking Iran again because Iran attacked it. But that's not the case. So if Israel wants to do this, Iran has made it very, very clear that on this occasion, if they thought the 180 was very small or didn't do enough, then this time they will rain down on Israel a lot more than they did there. So far, Iran has not even been using its latest missiles or weaponry that can do a lot more damage. Iran also, when it fired 180, it was very, very careful to fire them against military targets, not civilian targets. Unlike Israel, again, if you look at the Axis attacks over the last year, they have continuously been targeting military installations or military objectives. Whereas on the Israeli side, they just target civilians. They have, so the higher moral ground is with the Axis. Now, like I said, Iran said they will rain down missiles on Israel like no tomorrow. And I think on this occasion, there won't be red lines. Again, it depends how far Israel's attack against Iran is. They're talking about oil installments, although I think the Americans are trying to say no to that. There was a point when talking about the nuclear facilities of Iran, or at least and again, that could cause huge disaster. So we'll see how far they want to go, and I think it depends on how far Israel does for Iran's response to be. If Israel really goes somewhere where it shouldn't, then Iran is not going to hold back on this time. On the other hand, there may be attempts by the West, that we don't know about. I'm hoping that's the case, whereby they're saying to Israel, okay, you need to do something, or you feel like you need to do something, minimize it and get it over with, and let's close this chapter. Because if this continues to go, like you said, Rania, it will become a tit for tat. I think this time, Sayyid Khamenei is taking the lead on this. The reprisal for Ismail Haniyeh, as you know, should have come many months, much earlier. He was very clear about, if you want, the directive that he gave, that something like this that happened in their territory, under their protection, has to be responded to. The new president opted because he was convinced that the Americans were telling him that, look, Israel is not going to attack again, and there's going to be a ceasefire in Gaza, and everything is going to become, nice and daisy, basically. So he went for that. But after Sayyid Nasrallah and after another attack on Iran, so I think Sayyid Khamenei used his executive powers, which he has, but unlike others, he's not a dictator, so he doesn't like to impose them. But on this occasion, he went above everybody and said, we need to respond. And he's taking the lead now by saying, should Israel dare to re-attack Iran, then the reprisal is going to be much, much harder. So yes, like you said, we could see this escalating. I hope not for the region. But then again, we're going to wait and see. I think today Netanyahu was having a phone call with Biden to discuss how far they go in their attack. I mean, whether he heeds or not is another story. As you know, the man is unhinged. Sorry, but he's a lunatic on the loose, basically. And no one seems able to stop him or to tackle him. And he's just doing what he wants.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hala, we really appreciate you joining us here. Hopefully everyone is going to go read your book if they haven't already, Hezbollah, Born with a Vengeance. But thanks for giving us some of your time here in the Freedom Side.
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening to you too. Rania, catch you later. Thank you.
Yes. Stay safe.